All right, let's try to slip this on as best we can. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue working on the Serveta Jet 200. In the last video you saw that I rebuilt this mag housing and also put a new seal on that seal plate and then also reinstall that crank. So today we're going to continue working on this thing by reattaching the mag housing, putting the piston on, cylinder, and cylinder head. So that way this part of the engine is done. I can just work my way back. So yeah, if you guys are ready, let's get to it. Okay, so before we can reinstall the mag housing, we need to coat both sides of this gasket with some silicone. I'm going to use Bond 4. This is a silicone based sealant, and I've been using this recently and it's worked very well. I'm actually really happy with it. I used to use Honda Bond, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but this is just, in my opinion, a little better. So, alright, let's go and coat this gasket. Alrighty, I think that should do it. Alright, now that I've got the gasket coated on both sides, I'll go ahead and put it onto the engine case. Let's line up these 3 studs here. And they don't line up, so I'm going to have to reposition that. Let me see here. There you go. So I just noticed that there's a little I guess bump out here. I guess that faces forward, and that's how you line this thing up. Alright, so that's good. Spread this stuff around a little bit more. Okay, I had to fix the camera angle a little bit, but you saw that I put the gasket on there with the little tab, little protrusion on the gasket facing forward. And then I also put a little bit more Bond 4 on the outside. I went ahead and actually oiled the crankshaft a little bit, just so the seal doesn't get caught on any of these little lips or whatever. And then over here, make sure these seals have oil on them, or grease, since it's already greased up. So, alright, that's it. I'm going to slip this over. Now, when you do this, make sure you try to do it as straight as possible, just so the crankshaft doesn't catch either one of these oil seal lips there and there. So make sure the spring is still intact. Yep. One more time. I guess I had to help it. All right, you can do that. Okay, I just had to help it a little bit, and looks like it went over the crank, I think. Okay, that should be good. Alright, so to secure this thing, I'm going to use the M6 nuts that were on there, but I'm using new M6 wave washers. All right, set my little torque wrench here to 44 inch-pounds, which is around 3.6 foot-pounds. So let's torque this thing down real quick. Okay. Before I put the cylinder back on, I'm going to clean this cylinder base surface here. Let's see here. The studs weren't here. I just used my little 3M gasket remover tool, but the studs are here, and I really don't want to take them off just to do this. So, I'm using some a Scotch pad and some brake clean, and it should be fine. All right. Flip it down a little bit. You should be good to go. All right, that's pretty clean. Okay. Let's get the piston back on and the cylinder installed. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the piston. So on this piston, I had to grind off all the carbon that was on it, and that revealed a little arrow right here. So make sure anytime you see a piston, there's an arrow pointing down, or up or whatever. Make sure that's pointing towards the exhaust. All right, in a Lambretta, the exhaust points down. Okay, so I go to put this in. I already have the wrist pin halfway into the piston. There's a thrust washer that goes on this end. Then it's the actual wrist pin bearing. I've already coated it with some 2-stroke oil. And then there's also another thrust washer that goes on this side. So this might be a little tricky, but hopefully I can get this. Yeah, already came off. Let's try again. All right, got it through one thrust washer and halfway through the wrist pin bearing. See if I can slip this other washer in. All right, okay. Shrink? What's going on here? Feels like the wrist pin moved. I'm sorry, the wrist pin bearing moved. Okay, I grabbed myself a pick. I think that wrist pin bearing moved over a little bit, and it didn't allow me to put the thrust washer on the other side. All right, there you go. I felt it move a little bit. Okay, now I should be able to put the thrust washer in from the back and push the wrist pin the rest of the way in. Actually, I can go ahead and, actually, you know what? Let me push it further in. That way I'll keep moving that bearing. There you go. Let me see here. Okay. Okay. press this washer in, hopefully. Alright, I got my flathead screwdriver. I can maneuver that thrust washer around much better. Yep, I can. Alright, let's see if I can push. There you go. There you go. Just had to get the right tool. Alright. Okay, before I send the wrist pin all the way through, I'll put the circlip on this end of the piston, and I'll actually use my tool to pull it in the rest of the way. New snap ring pliers for circlips on the piston. So let me try to get these back in place. Okay. Make sure it's in the groove. Very, very important. Make sure this circlip is in the groove on the piston and not just laying on the outside of it. Because if it pops out, you know, very bad day. And this one seems to be good. Okay, I'm going on the other side, and we'll push the wrist pin all the way in until it hits that circlip, and then I'll put the circlip on the other side, and we should be done. Alright, I'm trying to push it in with a socket instead of grabbing my tool. That's not working. Okay, I need my tool. Alright. Back on this side with my wrist pin puller tool. The way this works is first you thread this shaft into the tool all the way. Then you put it through the piston and the wrist pin, and then put the nut on the other side. And the nut on the other side is actually counterclockwise to tighten it. You're gonna put it on there, and then you start backing the shaft out. Nope. Start backing the shaft out while you're holding on to this blue thing, the handle. And when you're backing it out, it actually pulls that little blue thing in, and that pulls the wrist pin in. So I'm gonna grab my tool. That's it. Take the little nut off the other side, clockwise to get it off. There you go. Now you see the wrist pin is all the way in against that circlip. Alright, now I go the other side, install that other circlip, and the piston is installed. Alright, I'm back on this side now. I got the circlip here. Go reinstall it back into the piston. Like that. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, very important. Make sure this circlip is in that groove on the piston and not just floating around in there. Alright, so now we can put the cylinder back on. Alright, so I just spent a good half an hour cleaning up the base of the cylinder here. There was a gasket stuck on there, and it started pitting from the rust and stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to put some Yamabond 4 onto the new gasket before I install that. Also clean the surface of the top, same thing. I know it's a big metal gasket that goes here between the cylinder and the head. I'm going to put Yamabond 4 on both surfaces. And I also removed the exhaust gasket that was stuck here. That doesn't really matter. I'm not too concerned about that. The intake manifold gasket I removed, and I actually cleaned the surface of that. Again, Yamabond 4 on the gasket before I install that. So, yeah. Spend some time to clean this stuff up before you reinstall it, because air leaks is a bad thing. So you don't want to have to take it all apart again just because you didn't feel like spending the extra half an hour to clean the stuff up before you assembled it. So all right, let's get the cylinder back onto the piston, and hopefully get the top end completely reassembled. All right, now that I got the piston actually onto the rod, let me make sure this crank spins freely before I move forward. Okay, and it does. I also dropped a bunch of two-stroke oil in that big end bearing on the crank, just so it helps lubricate it on the startup, because there's no lubrication in these cases. It's lubricated through the fuel and the oil that's mixed together. So yeah, very important that you lube everything up just for the startup. All right, so I got my gaskets here. This is the cylinder head gasket, and over here I have the cylinder base gasket. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna coat both sides with Bond 4 before I install it, and then we can slip the cylinder over the piston. The gasket coated in Bond 4, both the bottom and the top. I'm gonna slip them carefully over the piston onto the base of the case. Let's see here. All right. Reason I don't do this without the piston on there is just so I don't want the silicone to dry before I actually get the piston on and all reassembled. All right, so yeah, it makes it a little more difficult when I do that, but yeah, I want to make sure that silicone's not already cured by the time I go and put the cylinder on. So that's why I do it this way. Just wipe down any excess Bond 4 before I reinstall the cylinder. All right, so on the piston itself, there's little pins coming out of the ring groove, and that's where the gap goes. So that one's on top there. This one is on the bottom here, and I'm not sure where the third one is. The third one should be on the other side. Let me go look on the other side. Okay, I think the other pin is all the way down here on this side, right there. I don't know if you can see it, but all right, just make sure all those gaps are where the pins are on the piston, and then you can slip the cylinder over. So, all right, let's slip this over first. Actually, before I do anything, I need to coat this cylinder with two-stroke oil and blow it out first. Actually, some sand and stuff in there. Ugh. Yeah, make sure it's nice and clean. Okay. Fully coat the cylinder two-stroke oil before you install it. Again, this helps with startup. All right, there you go. Okay, now let's carefully reinstall this. Mess with the ring gaps one by one. Make sure they're all aligned. There you go. All right, let's start on the other side. All right, let's start with the top ring. That gap is right the little pin on the piston's right there, so make sure the ring goes around that pin before you push the cylinder onto the ring. Okay, this one. So the one down here, make sure, again, same thing. Right there. Same thing, make sure that's over the pin in the piston, the ring that is, before you go and slip the piston over. I mean the cylinder over that ring. I think I got it. Okay. All right, that's 2. Let's go to the other side and work that other one. Last one. Okay, there you go. Now we can push the cylinder on to the case. Okay, sorry, I hope you guys saw what I was doing with the ring gaps and getting in the line before I pushed the cylinder on. So I got the cylinder over the piston. Now I'm going to temporarily put the flywheel on here just so I have something to spin the crank with. Make sure everything is good and free. And yeah, it looks like it. Perfect. All right. Give the cylinder a couple taps. Just make sure it's all the way down onto the base of the case. And I think it is. Okay, good. I have the new cylinder head gasket here and I have the old one here. You can see there's a pretty big difference in thickness. So I cleaned this old one up and I'm going to use the old one instead. I don't want to mess with this squish, the space between the cylinder head and the actual piston. So I believe on the jets, you do need the thicker one. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to coat both sides with Yamabond 4 and I'm going to reinstall it. I just don't want to have any issues with the compression being too high or whatever. So, all right, let me just do that real quick. And then we'll put this back on. All right, I've got the cylinder head gasket coated in Yamabond 4, both sides. And now I'm going to slip the head back on. The head only goes on one way because these bolts are not exactly square. And then the spark plug always faces up. Okay. So let's just slip that on real quick. All right, just like that. Let's get the hardware back on and then we'll torque it back down. I've got the hardware back onto the cylinder head. It's the wave washer nut on these 3, and then the longer nut on this last one here, because this is where the fan shroud gets bolted back on. So just snug these up with a ratchet and I'll torque it down. Okay, I'm gonna torque these down. It's supposed to be 17 foot-pounds. I'm doing an X pattern. Do 2 steps so I don't warp the head. Seventeen. 17. 17. All right. Top end is completely reassembled. So now I still have the flywheel on here. So let me spin this and make sure everything's still good. and spinning freely. Nothing's binding. All right, perfect. Now, stuff a towel in here, just in case you drop something into the intake hole before you actually put the intake manifold back on. All right. Okay, I have the intake manifold right here. I have a new gasket. Again, same thing. I'm gonna coat both sides with Yama Bond 4. You notice that when I tried to take the nuts off the cylinder, and the studs came with it, so now I'm going to have to put them back in just together. So that's why I'm sticking this on here first before I reinstall it. All right, that looks good. All right, like I was saying, when I went to remove these, I tried to remove the nuts, and the stud came out with it. So one's taller than the other one. This taller one goes up front here, and the shorter one goes in the back. So I will go ahead and reinstall this manifold as if I was using bolts. Okay. Okay, let me find out what the torque spec is, and I'll torque this down real quick. Alright guys, I'm not sure what these are supposed to be, but I'll just do, say, 13 Newton meters. Should be good. 13. Alright, that's it. Make sure the crank still spins okay, and it does. Alright, cool. That's my first Series 3 Lambretta top end reassembled. Alright. So yeah guys, so far everything's been pretty easy and straightforward. Not too many problems. So yeah, unfortunately that's going to be it for tonight. If you guys have enjoyed these videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you all next time.